Hello. Today I wanted to show you the sketchbook or art journal of Frida Kahlo. So I'm always showing you inside my sketchbook, but I thought it might be interesting to go inside the sketchbook of one of the great artists of the 20th century. And it's via this really fascinating book. It's called The Diary of Frida Kahlo, an intimate self-portrait. It has a introduction by Carlos Fuentes. It is published by Aberdale Press. I've had this book for years. This edition was published in 1995, and it's one of those books that I still find endlessly fascinating. It's a book in 3 parts. So the first part has essays about Frida Kahlo. The main kind of substance of the book is a copy of her sketchbook in its entirety. So I think 170 pages of her sketchbook. And then the last section of the book is a translation. She was Mexican and spoke Spanish, so there's an English translation, but there's also some interpretation of what is going on in her sketchbook. And it's a fascinating window, I think, into her psyche and into her thoughts and into her feelings and how she expressed herself. It feels a little bit like you're a voyeur looking into her mind. There are some, beautiful tortured love letters to her husband, who she had a sort of on-off tempestuous relationship with. We all love looking at other people's sketchbooks, don't we? It just gives a really wonderful insight into the person. And she's a fascinating person, isn't she, Frida Kahlo? She is kind of magnificent, and she had all sorts of difficulty and trauma in her life. She had a really horrific bus crash when she was a young woman, which broke her spine and caused all sorts of damage. There's something in this sketchbook which I think demonstrates there's a sort of pain and a pathos, but there's also a playfulness, joyousness, and I'm fascinated by that interplay, really. This sketchbook spans the last 10 years of her life, and she was having a lot of operations. She had her leg amputated at one point. So, she was in severe pain and physical difficulty. It's like an interesting peep into her life. There's clearly woundedness and challenge, but there's also playfulness and exuberance, and she has all these wonderful word plays. So when I look at this book and inside her sketchbook, I'm kind of fascinated by the way that she utilises all the ink bleed throughs and spills and splodges and scribbles and stream of consciousness. And there's quite a lot of kind of automatic drawing, elaborate doodles. She was in part a surrealist, and the surrealists championed automatic drawing without any real thought process, trying to access your subconscious or unconscious through drawing. And there's some evidence of this in her sketchbook. There's also a lot of motifs and references to mythology and Egyptian culture and Mexican culture. She was sort of fascinated by, I think, her feelings and her state of mind, but also her heritage and her legacy and the peoples that she came from. She uses a real variety of materials. There's gouache, ink, drawings, smudges. I just think it's a really fascinating look at the artist, who was magnificent, wounded, beguiling, powerful, expressive. I mean, she was expressing things about being a woman that people were not expressing at that time, and her inability to be a mother. So there were lots of things that she was kind of working through and thinking through and were affecting her art and her life. Some of the journal is a little bit like poetry. It's a stream of consciousness, interesting words and associations. Things like no moon, sun, diamond, hands, fingertips, dot, ray, gauze, sea, pine green, pink glass, eye. So she's just, I don't know what she's doing. She may be listing the things that she's fascinated by, interested in. And this sketchbook spans 10 years, or this journal spans 10 years. It's a a large chunk of her life annotated, drawn in this book. I also love the way that she often will put a caption to a drawing. This one is The Not So Mad Hatter. The drawings in the sketchbook have sort of titles, and I love that. I really love that combination of drawings and paintings and writing. So when I'm looking at another artist's work, I think it's always really interesting to try and unpick and try and understand what is it in their work that is kind of calling to me and that I'm fascinated by and interested in, and try and understand that. And when I look at this sketchbook today, I'm really drawn to the way that she has combined writing with drawings and paintings and doodles and motifs and scribbles. I really enjoy that combination of the written word with the pictorial kind of representations, and it's something that I don't often do in my own sketchbook. I write a lot in a journal and I draw a lot in a sketchbook, but I don't often combine the two, and I think there's something that is really calling to me about that, so I think that might be something that I personally want to explore. I also really love the way that she kind of titles her drawings. They have captions and it gives them a sense of importance. I quite like it. I like the way that she's done that. So that's something that I might want to explore too. So I really recommend this book. It's a fascinating book. It's a real look into Frida Kahlo as the person, just personal thoughts. And I'm sure this sketchbook was never really ever intended for public consumption. So there's something a little bit challenging about that, I think. But it's also a way to kind of get to know the artist and the thought processes and some of the things that she's feeling and expressing. So a really interesting book.